Have you been practicing the alphabet? Today we're introducing letter number 4, Dalet. Grab your notebook and your pen and let's dive in. Shalom, welcome to Rob on the Rock and Scribe School. Today we're going to look at the 4th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it's the letter Dalet. And it is real easy to make 2 strokes, a horizontal stroke along the top line and then a vertical stroke below the right edge of that line. And as you can see here, there's a little bit of I'll put dots around that. I'll even zoom in there. It's important that we have this little ledge, this little carryover of the roof with the Dalet. And so let's go back to our black ink here, over and down. Now, again, I'm on my little pad. It's bigger, and I'm making some squiggly lines, but they should be relatively straight. If I write them faster, they have a little bit better shape, I think. That's a Dalet. And you could make, remember, like we do with the other letters, you want to practice making them small too, different sizes. But that's it. It's like a corner of a house or something. And this is the letter D. Makes the D sound. So like David, right? There's David is a good biblical name that comes to mind. Don or Dan, there's 3 right there. Daniel, David, or the tribe of Dan. These all begin with the letter D. Delilah, of course, in Samson and Delilah. These all start with the letter Dalet. We can make a few big ones too. Don't be afraid to use up a whole page, and get a big bold marker, for example. There you go. How's that? Let me make it maybe a little less blotchy. Dalet. And we can, for a moment here, review our letters. We've got Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and Dalet. Just for fun, let's make that a little smaller, and we'll change the color to purple. There we go. Let's do purple. Aleph, get that on the screen there for you. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. And you can practice writing them backwards. Dalet, Bet. Oops, I guess if I were to, that's not a big deal, but Dalet, Gimel, Bet, Aleph. The point is getting familiar with all the muscle memory that has to happen here. We're starting on the right side of the page and moving to the left. And we're learning shapes of letters that are very different than what we've known in English. Let's try gray and see what that looks like. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. And you want to just write it over and over and over and over again so the strokes get real familiar. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, and then finally today, Dalet. Okay, now we've looked at the basic strokes. You want to write this a gazillion times, and remember, you're not judging every little stroke, but overall, you want to develop that skill of recognizing the letter Dalet and being able to make it, put it on a page. Well, let's look at some of our manuscripts that we've been looking at with each letter. We've looked at manuscript from the Dead Sea Scrolls called the Great Isaiah Scroll, which is about 2,200 years old. And we'll look at how the Dalet was formed there. Again, we're looking at the same passage, Isaiah 2, verse 1, which we've looked at before. And it says right here, where if you can see the little hand, ha-davar, the davar. That means the word, ha-davar. And you see right above the little hand here, that's a Dalet. And it looks kind of like a little different than what I've written. And we'll look at another one here. This is which Isaiah, the son of Amos saw, al-Yehudah, concerning Yehudah, concerning Judah. So here's another Dalet. So we see this one here, and back to the word davar here. It looks kind of like a number 4. If we go to our dry erase pad here, let me grab that. And we can see how, oops, I want to get it to where I can see those both together. There we go. So ha-davar is right, the Dalet right here, and it kind of looks like this. Kind of like we would think of a number 4. Now, the likely that it was formed like a vertical line and then another line like that. Or perhaps, they did something that like they did a vertical line, horizontal, and then 2 little horns. But I think it was just like this, kind of like we make a number 4. That's what the Dalet looked like here. But that's not the Dalet I want you to learn. The Dalet I want you to learn is what I've been writing here, which is just 2 strokes, over and down. And we're wanting to make that upper right-hand corner to have that little guy that hangs off the edge there. Dalet. So sometimes, like with the Aleph and the Gimel, we're using the same strokes that the scribe at Qumran used, right? He used the Aleph like this. Sorry, I misspoke. It's not the scribe at Qumran. It's the scroll found at Qumran. The Great Isaiah Scroll, like I've mentioned before, predates the Qumran community, so it was written elsewhere and brought to the site. So, to be more accurate, the Alephs were using the same stroke that scribe used. We're not using the same bets, but the Gimels were using the same. But with the Dalets, we're not using the same. Now we're going to look at the Washington Pentateuch, again from Genesis, the story of Abraham. Achar hadavarim ha'ele haya davar Adonai el Avram. We read this before. This is Genesis 15. After these things, and the word here, achar, that's after, ha-devarim. This is the Dalet. Do you see that Dalet? It's got a little dot inside of it called the dagesh. Also starts with the d, and a vowel called the shavah, but we'll talk about those way later. We're just looking at the form of this letter, d. That's a Dalet. Then we have ha'ele haya davar. Do you see? We see the Dalet here. And we see 2 letters now that we know, the Dalet and the bet next to each other, dev, dev. Dalet and the bet. See how he makes it? It has, I think I can zoom up even a little more. That's about it right there. So here's a Dalet, and then here's one below it without the dagesh, of course. But right now we're just looking at the letter itself. And the formation of this Dalet is closer to what we're looking at here for our block formation. Basically, more like this. Now, he does have if we were to do a real careful calligraphy copy of it, he's got the widened end like that. And it goes a little past there's like a little knobby up here on the upper right that helps us differentiate it from other letters. And of course, I'm just coloring in the shape, whereas he's using a broad nib on his pen that he's using. So that's the Tiberian Dalet, which is a beautiful Dalet, of course. But we're just simplifying for the sake of learning the Hebrew alphabet, just back to our two-stroke formation, a horizontal line, and then a vertical line. Horizontal and vertical. And again, like I pointed out before, we want to make sure that we have that little corner sticking out in the upper right hand of the letter. That's important for us differentiating it from other letters down the line. Excellent. So here we go. Hopefully you've got your notebook and you've got an accumulation here of Hebrew letters that you're learning to form. Let's do some orange here. We'll review. Oh, that's huge. Let me back out a little. There's our Aleph. Here's our Bet. Here's our Gimel. And then today we've got our last little letter here that we've learned, our Dalet. So you want to practice these. Write them big, write them super small, write them in between. Use lined paper or not, but you want to practice putting different combinations of these letters together, and eventually we're going to build words. So right now we're not looking at the word level. Remember, meaning is at the word and sentence level, not at the letter level. Now there are a lot of teachers out there that mistakenly teach significance of cosmic meaning of a letter. That's not the approach taken here at all. No one taught that way in the Bible. Yeshua did not teach that way. The disciples did not teach that way. So the meaning is in the words, not in the letters. However, the letters are the building blocks of the words, and we want to learn the letters really well because that's going to be our foundation. So keep at it. Keep working on your notebook, writing those letters. You want them to be second nature. You want to get them into your memory. You want to know what the name of the letter is, the sound it makes, and also that muscle memory, the motor skills, being able to physically write it and put it on the page. This is really good foundational training and skill that is going to be, we're going to leverage that for building knowledge as we go. So keep practicing. We're just here at the fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet. We've got many letters left to go. If you know anybody who has talked about learning Hebrew, you think they might be interested, send them the link and they can jump in and follow along on this journey. Shalom.